Oh wow, our club did delivery. That was something else. I picked up the package I dropped on the floor and headed into the living room. It would be nice, I guess, to have some tea with it, to fill my mouth with mochi while drinking tea. Oh, this was quite a delectable situation I was in. Opening up the newspaper wrapping, there were 5 plump red bean paste mochi with snugly inside. There were letters written from left to right on the newspaper, A, B, C, D, and E. Now then, what would that be the equivalent in Japanese? Would they go in the Japanese, like, order of the alphabet? Would it be like A, E, U, O? Yeah, those would be the first 4. So it's that. Now then, it said Rena made one of these. I wonder which one. There wasn't much difference in how they looked. They smelled and appeared about the same. This was a pretty difficult problem. The biggest difference was probably their shape. I wasn't sure what kind of person Mion's grandma was, but Rena had to be different from hers. Looking carefully, I could see one mochi that was made very neatly. So, well, that, just by staring at it, one could tell it stood out. Looks like this challenge depends on whether or not this one is Rena's. Calm down and think even harder. Mion had said her grandma made a ton of them and was told to give them out, if I remember correctly. That meant 4 of these were from that large batch. And what about Rena? She probably only made 1. So she probably spent quite a bit of time on it. Meaning the one Rena had made was this one. For a moment I thought it may have been a trap. Mion lay that she knew I'd pick up on it. That probably wasn't the case. Wouldn't be so sure if I knew Mion had made it, but since she said Rena made it, it probably wasn't a trap. Alright, my tea is ready too. I'll start with the defending champ Mion's grandma. Let's see. Not bad. The smooth bean paste and soft chewy texture left little to be desired. The tea I drank afterwards also accentuated the experience. I'm now picturing him with a top hat, thick moustache and a monocle. So I evaluate this as quite nice, yes. Spectacular, delicious. This was an exquisite piece of work. Now, how about Rena's? The creation was so delicate one would think it was a high-class Japanese dessert. Since I normally had quite the appetite, I was slightly worried about the size of the portion. But, well, first a bite. This was quite a difficult one to judge, actually. The ingredients were exactly the same, so there was little difference in flavor. What was different was how it was shaped at the end, so it was to be expected. The deciding factors would be presentation and volume. The well-formed and well-sized champion versus Rena the challenger, who has size you just couldn't get enough of. I'd only had 1 bite of Rena's. I would probably have to wait until after I was done eating to make my decision. Maybe there was something hidden inside that could cause an upset. Seems my prediction was right. My tongue touched something. Didn't feel like something edible, so I reached in with my fingers and grabbed it. What was this? Again, it gives time to set the mood. Before I could fully comprehend what it was, I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast as I could. It slammed against the wall, causing the beam jam to splatter. Then, after sticking for a moment, it slid down to the floor. I was dumbstruck by my own actions. What was I doing? Ren had gone out of her way to make it for me. How could I? Dumbstruck, I looked down at the hand that performed such a vile act. Then I remembered what I had taken out of my mouth. At first I thought it was a hair. Even though it was shorter than Mion's, Rena's hair was still quite long. And it wasn't this short. It was also a bit too hard to be hair. It was thick enough to roll around on my tongue. There was a bit of metallic sheen on one end of it. Ah yes, there was a hole for where a thread goes through, like with a sewing needle. Yes, that's right. Looked very much like a sewing needle. exactly like one. The end was pointed as well, quite sharply. It really did look just like a sewing needle. Huh? What I mean by looked very much like a sewing needle, just a bit ago. I couldn't answer. The voice inside me already knew and let me know by chattering my molars together. I couldn't starve off the terror welling up inside me. Suddenly I tasted something metallic and felt a prickling pain at the back of my throat. I stuck my fingers in the back of my throat and felt around to see if I was bleeding. Suddenly I felt the urge to vomit. The sharp taste of bile irritated the back of my throat. I clasped both hands over my mouth and after a writhing in agony, I was somehow able to knock back the nausea. I was finally able to breathe normally again. This time my heart was intensely throbbing. Then it finally registered exactly what was mixed in with the mochi. Before I could think of the correct words, my hands were already on the move. I tossed the rest of the mochi against the wall, but without the splatting sound effects. The geometrical patterns of the scattered bean jam on the wall suddenly invoked a terrible omen in my mind. After looking away, I dashed out the hall and flew upstairs to my room, where I stayed under my covers until morning. I clutched my own shoulders, howling madly in a mix of fear, anger, sadness, and frustration. This wasn't a threat or warning or reminder. It's nothing as simple as that. What had happened in Higurashi? What is happening in Higurashi? What would happen? I didn't know the answer to any of those questions. Or did I break a taboo? Regardless, now Rena and Mion and others, they considered me an enemy, and they thought I should just die. I won't let you kill me! Not for such a pointless reason. I fell into a restless sleep as I was crushed by my negative emotions, as if I was being drawn into a billowing, bottomless marsh. Remember when the plot was all slice of life and carefree? Higurashi when he cried. You have received new tips, also medicine not necessary to get a design and threats. Achievement unlocked, hard to swallow. Let's cut to the chase. Is there a drug that causes someone to kill themselves? Not directly, no. That's quite a roundabout response. You're saying there's one that does it indirectly. Something that puts you into a suicidal mindset state like that. That's hard to say. What would a suicidal mental state be? Like a person with a serious bipolar disorder. It's believed that people are most likely to attempt suicide when swinging from depression to mania. Clinical depression and bipolar disorder are different. Well, no shit. Clinical depression indicates a prolonged state of depression, whereas bipolar disorder is characterized by a passive, depressed state accompanied by a very active manic state. Individuals with clinical depression suffer from low self-esteem and are quite pessimistic, but rarely commit suicide. They do not have the willpower to commit suicide, nor does mania on its own lead to suicide. That has an opposite effect, filling the person with confidence and making them feel as though they are walking on air. Thus they do not commit suicide. That's interesting. Either state causes suicide, but when the condition changes, they might do so. There's no desire to commit suicide when in a state of depression, but they do not have the willpower to commit suicide, such a formidable act. But when they enter mania, they gain a burst of willpower and their body moves as they desire. I see. So it means they gain the willpower to commit suicide. That's how it goes. That's why patients are given sedatives during that time to keep them from acting on their impulses. Then was Tomoitake bipolar? People who suffer from bipolar disorder generally commit suicide by more civilized means, like, say, hanging or jumping off a building. Self-harm as though going through withdrawal is completely different. Tomitake's death wasn't civilized, so one would think it was caused by some foreign substance. as I said from the start. Tell me a drug that causes someone to commit suicide. No reports that. God damn, I don't know how to pronounce that. Mion overdoses produce a condition that resembles bipolar disorder. A stimulant. Rate overdoses are also reported to cause erratic behavior. All these bloody names. That's a sleep aid. There were no signs of stimulants. Are there any other possibilities? All I can think of is that it's some sort of illness. Something like Graves' disease, which affects the thyroid, and is known to cause symptoms that resemble bipolar disorder. But Graves' disease has many characteristic symptoms of its own. The deceased evidenced none of them. I wonder, is there something that could happen more spontaneously? Something that fits the case and would cause someone to want to commit suicide all of a sudden? Are you familiar with organic mental disorders? In short, it's a condition where the brain is out of whack due to physical injury or illness. It can be caused by drugs, but it can also be caused by physical trauma. Stroke, or even tumors. If I were a doctor, I think like one of the most challenging freaking things to learn would be how to say all these bloody terms. Basically, without a drug, one can succumb to an irregular mental state. The deceased was surrounded after being chased, that his life was in danger, right? All that stress could have messed with his brain chemistry. He could have hit his head, and those factors combined might have caused him to mutilate himself. It's a possibility. Could you explain it to me in simpler terms? Basically, he knocked his noggin in the brawl, and that made him go haywire. That is, lady didn't have any intent to kill. Just smacked him in a bad place when he nicked some change. What the hell, man? It's like, just talk about a really morbid subject and be like, yeah, The two plump men left hostilely. But of course, it's not like that. Undoubtedly. If it was a habitual drug use, if it was something mental, the deceased body holds the key. How are things on your end? This is probably Ooishi speaking then. Oh my goodness, look at the time. I need to get back soon, or Kuma-chan will get angry with me. Yeah, good luck. Best wishes. Best wishes. I don't know who's talking anymore. Fritz. Yeah, honestly, I only know partially a bit about, like, bipolar, but at the same time, I don't really know a great deal about it, honestly. Actually, I know someone actually has bipolar. So, from what I'm getting, bipolar has, like you said, like, these manic episodes. I've heard, like with some people with bipolar, like, if they're in like they'll have like a really good mood, just suddenly, and it's like all compulsive and buy loads of stuff like that essentially. Then they'll have like more kind of like depressing kind of one, and then be impulsive on that. Like maybe it's like, I don't know, end up drinking a lot, drugs, I don't know, just anything, just impulse depending on the mood. I don't really understand bipolar all that much. Especially you got like the manic episodes where it can be like a high and a low. So I don't really fully understand how it works. Those guys just now. They're national dice badges. Then it's Prefectural Assembly Member and City Councilor Sonozaki. That's interesting. The Prefectural Assembly Member and City Council are related. It's dirty is what it is. Don't know who the hell I'm even talking to here. But anyway, shout out each other's names during elections. While one's up for election, the other one holds an assembly and they double up their campaign activities. Blatantly. I don't know much about the stuff, but isn't that against the rules of the election? Oh, I remember now. Oh, I get it. There's another person like... He's like, essentially, I think in the previous scene he was talking to the doctor, And I think this guy's his assistant that he's talking to. I think he was also in the other scene as well, but I don't think he did any talking in that one. Maybe. I don't think he ever appears on screen, though, as a character portrait. As long as they have no prior consultations, there are no restrictions on their political activities. Kuma-chan, the investigation division is going to be pretty tough for you. You should at least brush up on election policies. Yeah. When he's referring to Kuma-chan, I think he's talking about his assistant guy. I'm not suited for the intelligence division, because I'm dumb. There was official assembly member Sonozaki and city councilor Sonozaki, also the mayor of Hinamizawa, all of them involved with the Sonozaki family. What crap. Looks like they were seen off by the department chief and the deputy chiefs. It came to me. That night when the chief invited me along to get some Odin, I thought that was it. Oh, this is from his assistant's perspective then, by the sounds of it. Now come to think about it, the other one must have been from the doctor's perspective, otherwise Ooishi probably wouldn't have appeared on screen if it was, from his perspective. You have a lot of connections, so you might have heard something. Did you? Nope, not a thing. I don't know who's talking, god damn it! Ammo, take a tofu fritter and fish cake. Councillor barked at me in the police chief's need. Oh my, is that so? I'll take it all about. Virtual assembly member Sonozaki and city councillor Sonozaki were both intimidating. Our snot-nosed career police chief couldn't even handle being yelled at by them. They're like Yakuza. Combination with your name came up regarding how the investigation of the Hinamizawa incident has been handled. Goodness me, I've not the faintest. No need to play dumb. You're real in the past cases regarding Hinamizawa. Okay, now we get context, now I can tell who's talking. Aren't you? I've already got my hands full with Tomatake's death, actually. Ha ha ha! Laughing at morbid things. Really? If that's true, then there's no problem. There's a period of silence. While we were silent, we made headway on our food and drink. Phew, that was quite a feast. This month has been a bunch of losses for me. It's mind-boggling feeling the pinch. Much appreciated. It's nothing. Wait, what? It's nothing. Tell me a good horse again. I'll bet on the same as you. I haven't been doing well there lately. I haven't been able to rig horses at all. Taxi! I am going by train. The police chief is taking a taxi. I have my own car, but it'd be rash to drive it home. Can't blow it right before retirement with a DUI. What? Now it sounds like it's from Ooishi's perspective. It's like, that's the confusing thing, man. It's hard to tell half the time whose perspective we're freaking reading from. Even though he could still rattle off, it looked like his legs were already goo. So for all I know, there might have been 3 people in that scene as well. How confusing. That's why I prefer visual novel formats, because it shows the names whenever a character is speaking. So you don't have that trouble of trying to identify who is the character that's speaking. Pushing him into the cab, I gave the driver the police chief's address. Well, see you again tomorrow. Happy New Year. Ooishi-san. Yeah. Past instances have all been closed. Stop lumping them all together. Those villagers have to believe it's really a curse. Well, I'm not convinced. You're going to be retiring next year, aren't you? Weren't you going to pay off your mortgage with your pension and move up to Hokkaido with your mom? Well, finds to return to the land of her birth. It's the least I can do. Wait, what? So is it his mother that he's been talking about, or his grandma now? It's so confusing. And the pension, well, it'll let me enjoy myself in Susukino. Ha ha ha! The police chief may issue a special retirement salary raise, he says. A public servant's pension is calculated based on their monthly salary. So if you were to get a raise right before retirement, your bonus to your salary would be inflated, and you'd get a heavy surplus of funds. That tends to be outdone around here. Of course, it's not a custom that's thought of highly. The difference between the bonus and the pension is quite a bit. I'd expect nothing less assembly from our head chief, but, well, say our salary is compensation for our hard work, but in the end it really just has to do with passing of time. It's not something I can laugh at, but I'll laugh through it anyway. I don't think it's anything exemplary. Given how hard you... what's the other guy speaking? How hard you've worked, it's not odd that you're getting that much of a pension. I like to get that much myself. If I can get it, well, of course I want it. You'll get it. You're an adult, after all. Sorry for holding you up here, driver. Thank you very much. The president abruptly interrupted the chief's conversation a bit rudely. It looked like the chief still had something to say, but he just smiled dryly and waved as I waved in return. The cab sped up gradually and soon disappeared among the sea of light. Oh, man. I wonder if I really can repay that loan. Continue! Why not? Tap, tap. The sound of muffled footsteps. Well, that's not a footstep, is it? Muffled footsteps stopped in front of the door to my room. A moment of silence, as if whomever they belonged to was asserting if I was inside. All the things I should have been doing, I continued on with my restless slumber. I was very much conscious, but my body hadn't caught up yet, even with danger bearing down on me from just beyond the door. It was as if I was completely paralyzed, unable to move. Without a doubt, this was sheer terror. Please, just leave. Hey, why isn't my body awake yet? Sleep paralysis, maybe? If they came into my room right now, then... Delay? Hello? What? Ah! I sprung to my feet and threw my covers at my mum, who was opening the door. Oh, Keiichi! What's the matter? Sorry. Still half asleep. I thought it was still 1 or 2 a.m., but the morning sun was already streaming through the gap between the curtains. It felt nothing like morning. Yesterday I must have fallen asleep right after that, and I should have gotten a full 10 hours of rest. But it didn't feel like that at all. My internal clock was completely screwed up and my sense of balance felt off. I felt feverish enough that it was clear to me that I was still not well. Oh, Keiichi, how are you feeling? Can you make it to school? I was well enough to go, but I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I was still plagued with the terror from yesterday. When I swallowed that needle, what would have happened? Oh, what if it had pierced my tongue? It's undoubtedly a murderous intent, but I didn't think that's all it was. It's just like, just a thought. If they really wanted to kill me, then there were other, more certain ways to do it. They wouldn't resort to such a dubious method as having me swallow a needle. Meaning, I didn't want to believe it, but going that far was just a threat from Rena and Mion. Aren't you glad you didn't die, but next time we'll use a more assured method, like that. Something like sending a letter with a razor inside would have been a joke compared to this. Did you make it to the hospital? Did you take your medicine? Yeah, kinda. Something about my mum's dubious gaze bothered me. She seemed more concerned about her son missing 2 days of school rather than him being sick. It was definitely mental fatigue, but wasn't really physically ill. It will be hard for you to get back on track once your daily routine is thrown off. Come on, get on up. They say wellness is a state of mind. It's a shame we don't really get to see his parents appear on screen as character portraits. You know, because like, unlike a lot of novels where it ends up being like parents don't play a role in it, or if they do, it's just one parent. But it's both parents here. And we don't even see them appear on screen. Like, even in the anime version, they appear on screen, obviously, but they don't show their faces, at least the mother anyway. Like, the manga version apparently they do, but I think that's the only version that does. I heard that line many times before. I was given an award in elementary school for having perfect attendance, but it wasn't like I was healthier than everyone. Come on, go wash your face. Breakfast is already ready. There isn't much time before Rena-chan comes and gets you. Just thinking that breakfast is already ready. Already ready. It's ready twice there, isn't it? Mum's turn meant I couldn't argue about it, so I had to give up on skipping the second day. By the way, were you the one who got bean paste all over the living room wall, Keiichi? You shouldn't do something like that. The father was quite angry. I didn't feel particularly guilty for doing it, so I didn't have much of a reaction. Also, Mum didn't question me any further about it. She headed back downstairs after she was certain I was getting up. What Mion said as she left yesterday, I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow, came back and dwelled in the back of my head. What did she mean by that? I didn't even have to really think about it. She was saying don't be absent. Taking that a bit further was the same as her saying I should just go about living my life as if nothing happened. If I showed any signs of acting unusual, it would probably result in them making their move. For example, maybe I shouldn't pay attention to someone like Ooishi and enticing me with something unusual. Meaning if I didn't watch my mouth or did anything differently from the norm. In effect, it would end up flagging myself as someone who was not wanted. And it seems that was something the girls didn't intend to forgive. So if I just went along as normal, no harm would come to me. Is that how it's going to be? Well, that misery I experienced up until yesterday would almost quickly just fade away. It was an enticing view. Despite forgetting everything I had seen or heard these last few days, I'd be able to keep living on like normal. Such a way, such a selfish thing I swallowed hard. I once again deliberated on the idea that I had just rejected. Mion was probably a good person who had her friends at heart. She was giving me, who had mistakenly broken some rules of theirs, a chance. Was what I did really something so unforgivable that Mion had given me another chance? She was saying if I just forgot everything and kept living on like I had been, I'd be forgiven. Keiichi, your food is going to get cold. Hurry up and come get down here. Rena will be here if you don't hurry. I'm coming. I crammed my textbooks into my bag and hastily made my way downstairs. I picked up my somewhat bland breakfast. It seemed that I didn't have much time, though already passed when I usually met up with Rena. Given yesterday's events, she'd probably be here in the next 5 minutes. I needed to be ready to head to school by then. I have to forget everything that had happened the past 2 days. Forget it all and return to my normal life. For this to be normal, I'll have to be where I normally meet up with Rena. Today of all days, the rice was dry and hard to get down. I jumped at the sound and dropped my chopsticks. That chime signaled that Rena had arrived. Mum hurried me along. Come on, Rena-chan's already here. Hurry, hurry! My mother's merry smile and my gloomy face were polar opposites. Honestly, I was reluctant to see Rena, who was waiting down the other side of the door. The Rena on the other side wasn't the Rena I knew. I couldn't keep her waiting. I needed to do things as usual. And I was just thinking that, just like, or if I just stopped the freaking recording there, just like, is she going to be the same as always? Find out next time! But nah, let's record a bit more. Morning! An invigorating greeting filtered in from across the doorway. I came since Keiichi-kun was a bit late. Will he be okay today, I wonder. The manner in which Rena was concerned was without a doubt the Rena I knew. But that was probably only if I... God Damn, why do I even have trouble answers on words? Get everything from yesterday. Pretend as though nothing had happened. See, recuperate? There was a different word there. Forget about the gruesome memories. Forget about the mysterious deaths that happened the following years. Forget about the people falling to their death, and the terminal illness and suicide, and the lynching, and the disappearances. Forget it. Forget all of it. Forget that Rena and Mion were scary. Of course, forget it all. Never forget about everyone. Forget about the mochi too. Forget. Rena once again asked to make sure.
Can you make it to school?
Yeah, fine.
Great! Let's go, Michan is waiting.
Rena showed me her usual bright smile. I couldn't find any hint of deceit in her expression. My nervousness dissipated, giving way to relief.
What is this? Toko-chan was so insistent she could do it.
As we were walking, Rena talked about a lot of different stuff, more so than usual. Then...
Toko-chan's clumsy so she failed no matter how many times she tried. Oh, she was so cute!
Now that's the Rena we know. Everything Rena talked about was just silly nonsense, so I just replied every so often and laughed from time to time. It was a rather laid-back conversation. We passed by one of our neighbors and they called out to us. Oh my, Keiichi-chan and Rena-chan aren't you two a bit late today? Mion-chan said she was going on ahead.
Oh, is Michan looking mad, I wonder. We need to hurry up, Keiichi-kun.
As we smiled and parted ways with our neighbor, they turned back towards me and stuck out talking. Not expecting that, I couldn't help but crack a smile.
Keiichi-kun smiled.
What? Rena stopped and stared at me. I was thinking that you still hadn't recovered from... Oh, wait.
I was thinking that you still hadn't recovered from your cold since you seemed down this morning, Keiichi-kun. But now you seem fine.
A grin, she gently poked my cheek. It was a bright, sincere smile. Hey, Keiichi, my Mara, how can you still doubt Rena after she showed you a smile like that? Maybe I just had a high fever until today, and I imagined everything that I thought happened because I was bedridden and delirious. I really hope that was the case. If God would grant me just one wish, there's only one thing that I'd wish for. I would want that what had happened in the past few days. More specifically, from the night of Onikakushi up until last night. Wanted all that to have never happened. Wonder how many times I'd wished for these past few days. As long as Rena kept on smiling like this, I think it might just become reality. So I wanted Rena to keep on smiling. Keep on smiling.
So, Keiichi-kun, those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all?
That vain wish of mine was instantly shattered. My heart began palpitating, the relaxed morning mood suddenly became frigid. Rena's smile was the same as usual, her eyes were gentle as usual. Those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? Of course she wasn't asking the question at face value. In other words, Rena was asking, did you get the message? She was probably trying to convey that.
Keiichi-kun.
I was reluctant to give an answer. Rena stopped walking and stared deeply into my eyes. Don't hesitate, Keiichi, my Mara. Rena was acting the same way as always, wasn't she? I need to respond in my usual way. Naturally, of course. But both my throat and mouth had gone dry and my lips were stuck together. Hurry and answer, Keiichi. Not that much time had passed. I could still keep the conversation going naturally. I have to say something quickly.
Dad?
Rena playfully mimicked what I said when I finally squeaked something out. Rena's reaction was still normal. It seems that there wasn't as long of a pause as I thought. Somehow I finally squeaked out the rest. Delicious! However, my strained effort to neither sullied nor brightened Rena's expression. For a moment I panicked, thinking I had replied incorrectly. But after a few moments, Rena broke into her usual soft smile and giggled with a joyful voice that seemed to echo through the morning air. Being strung along by that laugh, I couldn't help but laugh as well.
I see. So did you eat all of them, I wonder?
My timid smile froze again. Did you make it without swallowing the sewing needle? Was that what she was asking? If I'd swallowed it, then I wouldn't be here. I couldn't finish all of them. There's still some left. I was scared out of my wits, but that's how I played it.
Huh? What about the homework? See if you could tell which one Rena made.
That homework, was it due today?
Yeah, it's due today. Michan will get angry. There's probably a penalty game ready for you.
We both laughed at each other again. To a casual observer, it was a typical morning. If I could just let myself believe, then even I'd think it was just the usual morning routine. But I was certain I wasn't mistaken. There was something unimaginable buried beneath the facade of this giggling Rena. Lies. Usara! I recalled that unexpected, piercing voice that I could hardly believe came from Rena's mouth. The moment that image crossed my mind, I felt cold. Sweat trickled down my back. And it happened on that very road that we're standing on, isn't it? Was it only at that particular time that something evil had possessed Rena? No, that was wrong. That was still Rena, which San told me, didn't he? Actually, I looked into her before. Pardon me, Ryuga-san moved away to Hinamizawa. She was suspended from school, since she went through a school building and broke all the windows. Rena had a disorder that normal people didn't. No matter how pleasantly she smiled, that fact would not change. I couldn't even imagine it. How she locked a stroke of the glass throughout the school. One thing I knew was that it wasn't something spur of the moment. If it was something sudden, some sudden outburst of anger, then maybe she'd break a pane or two. But she broke all of the windows all throughout her school. Just imagine going through your own school, breaking the windows wherever. Swinging full force at each pane of glass, one after another. Pay no heed to the flying shots. Your classmates aghast, unable to move from the sudden events. I'm totally ruining the mood, aren't I wonder where she would have found the most windows lined up in a row. Probably the hallway.
Walk, wind up. Walk, wind up.
It was difficult for me to connect an horrifying image with the Rena smile I can be right now. But I just had to imagine it. Impossible, because it was unimaginable. My naive way of thinking no longer worked. The unpleasant mirroring sound of shattered glass, the crunching noise as Rena traced across the broken shards walking towards her. Rena's classmates going pale as they forget to even breathe. I wonder what they did as Rena came closer, breaking windows along her path. Did they earnestly try to bring her to her senses by saying something? Or did they jump at her, trying to stop her savagely? Or did they run to the staff room after being directed there by the teachers? Probably none of it. In the face of that blood-curdling sight, saw Rena busting window after window. Undoubtedly, all they could do was silently clear a path for her. Dumbfounded, just clearing the path for Rena to continue. It was far too violent an act for them to seek refuge by looking the other way. That's not to say they were looking the other way. They were doing the only thing they could to protect themselves. If they had done something differently from the rest, they may have suddenly found themselves as Rena's new target. What would Rena have done to whoever attracted her attention? The answer was obvious. She would have undoubtedly acted accordingly to her whims. Meaning I would be the next window. Rena staring into my eyes, shards of glass crunching and crackling underfoot. She drew closer. I was also drawn into her eyes, paralyzed. Paralyzed by fear. Paralyzed. Then Rena struck me with the bat over and over again like I was one of those windows. You know when there was no dialogue on the screen? You have to press enter even with that. It's weird. So I'm just like sat there like for a few seconds, just like, well, continue, and it's like, no, you gotta hit the enter key. I crouched down onto the floor, protecting my head. Rena didn't care whether it was my head or my back. Zealously, she hits me again and again. What kind of expression was she making as she was doing this? I peered up to see. The expression was so indifferent it was completely unnerving. Honestly, of her creepy expressions, this is the more tame one. This is the one that makes me just go, oh, a pat on the head, but in the context, it'd be like, pat on the head, run for the hills! Because, you know, the soul-staring one is like, ah! And the angry one is like, ah! Duck for cover! It's because no matter how many times she struck me, I didn't make as pleasant a sound as the other windows. No, I just noticed the freaking options here. They're moving slightly to the side, aren't they? It's like, wow, going with the sound effects. Well, she struck me continuously. Why is it no longer working? I'll just click on this, maybe. Over and over again. Okay, there it goes. Sound Rena wanted didn't come out. Our classmates standing around didn't try to stop her. They didn't want to be the next window. Somebody save me, turning a blind eye unless we're hanging out. But of course, everyone in class happened to obtain the highest standardized test scores. They'd gain nothing from saving a crammed school tryhard like me. Eventually, there would be a faint sound similar to when you crack open a walnut and some sort of reddish-black spray would shoot out. Anyway, it wasn't that Rena momentarily lost herself in her anger. After forcing myself to breathe and calming down my heart, I recalled what Ooishi-san told me. And in the counselor's medical report, he recorded all the conversations he had with Rena-san. It shows up, and quite a bit of it at that. What does? She mentioned the word Oyashiro-sama. Following that, Rena was suspended and had regular examinations at the hospital. Then as Rena was undergoing counseling, she said it over and over. Oyashiro-sama. And that Oyashiro-sama she spoke of was like a ghost appearing in her house every night, standing over a pillow looking down at her. That was the only piece of their conversation, so I still couldn't see the big picture. But it was by no means a happy little conversation. And what Rena did, was she saying that ghastly incident was the result of her being possessed by Oyashiro-sama. Up until now, I didn't want to believe in Oyashiro-sama's curse. And so I wanted to say the mysterious deaths every year happened because of some sort of conspiracy. Every time I talked with Ooishi-san, I was more certain that the deaths were the work of men and not of some curse. Except, if it was people perpetrating the incidents, my friends were somehow deeply connected. If I refused to believe that the curse was real, then I would have to believe those who acted the kindest to me were deeply involved in the incidents. Why? How? For what reason? It's Rena. It's everybody. It's much more painful and troublesome than accepting that it was just Oyashiro's curse. In the aftermath, Rena had admitted to her doctor that it was because she was possessed by Oyashiro-sama. I had a strange sense of relief from that. So that's how it was. There wasn't a second side to Rena. She did that because she was possessed by something strange like Oyashiro-sama. It wasn't Rena's fault. Oyashiro-sama was the one to blame. I knew. Just roll backwards. Refusing to believe there was a curse, I wanted there to be a human perpetrator. Now that my close friends were the ones under suspicion, I changed my beliefs at my own convenience, saying it was Oyashiro-sama's curse to blame. Which was the better choice, accepting that Oyashiro-sama's curse exists, or that Rena and the rest of them were deeply involved in a string of mysterious deaths. I didn't want to think about it. So I just didn't think about it. I'd be able to continue the same as always. I wanted to believe that. But, as that was no longer possible, I received their message. It was prophetic in me to try and bend the meaning of my own convenience. Regardless of my opponent being a human or curse, I won't let it kill me, as if I would just bend over and give in, for no good reason at all.
Keiichi-kun, you've been making a really weird face. Why, I wonder?
Inhaling sharply upon hearing Rena's voice, I came back to my senses. Before I'd realized it, we were already at the entrance. Shaking my head a few times, I exercised all those terrifying thoughts. No matter how you looked at it, there's no way Rena could have done such terrible things. It was like I was trying to placate myself, or whatever. As I slid the door in a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head, the moment I stepped into the classroom, the chalk dust went into my eyes, inducing a brief moment of agony.
Oh, how befitting for the truant Keiichi-san. Good morning to both you, Keiichi and Rena. Good morning, Satoko-chan, Rika-chan.
Not quite in the mood for it, I didn't really react to Satogo's trap. Satoko braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. She seemed a bit disappointed as I simply walked by silently.
It's like, hey, I thought you were going to do that flick to the head nonsense. What is this? How discouraging indeed. Keiichi doesn't seem back to his usual self yet. Yeah, take it easy on him for today, okay?
Suddenly there was a slap down on my shoulder. It hurt a bit.
Hey, Keiichi-chan, did you get enough rest?
It was Mion. My mind was full with the stuff about Rena, but Mion was also a party of interest. Remember, Keiichi, that hawkish gaze from yesterday. I like how he's like saying in his mind, he's like, remember what was that gaze from yesterday? And despite like on his way out, he's like, no, I forget all of that, then proceeds to think about it. Because I mean, how would you not be able to if you were in his shoes in this scenario? Yeah, morning.
What's with that unenergetic greeting? Did you eat the mochi I brought you?
Because I ate them, I'm like this. These words reaching to be blurted out. I really just didn't have the appetite. I ate a few, but quite a lot left over.
Now, what about homework? Do you have an answer for which one was Rena's? I can't believe you forget your homework, Keiichi-kun.
Why doesn't he just say he had a thought that was E, so maybe just say that?
Sheesh, now we can't help it. Time for your penalty.
Flashing a lurid smile, Mion returned to her seat. There was nothing from our exchange that would cause our classmates to suspect anything was amiss. But of course, anyone listening to our conversations up until this morning wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that regardless of whatever happened to Keiichi my bar, no one would ever suspect them. That fact had me terrified. Soon the teacher came. After she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. That was a long recording session, if you ask me. And intense as well, Jesus Christ. I'll see you next time, viewers. See you next time.